Hello everybody, we're going to be solving some quadratic equations. So we're going to start off with things that are pretty simple, just x squared is equal to 9. So basically when something is squared and it's equal to something, so what value or values would make this statement true? That's always what you should ask yourself when you're solving something. That's what a solution is a value that makes the statement true. So if you think about plugging in, this one you can probably guess is 3 squared, right? 3 squared is equal to 9. To do this in a mathematical way that we can do repeatedly is to think about what are we doing to both sides to turn that into a 3. This is kind of the whole premise behind algebra is this property of equality that whatever you do to one side, do to the other. So guess and check is one method to solve these things, but it's not going to be a way that when they get more complicated, we're going to be able to come up with. So let's use the algebraic way, which is to do the same thing to both sides. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Now, the value of this would be x is equal to, so the square root of x squared is, well, technically it's the absolute value of x, but and that's equal to 3. And then the value of x would be positive 3 or negative 3 would be two solutions to that equation. Okay, and we can check that and plug it back into the original equation and show that it's a solution. So 3 squared is equal to 9, and negative 3 squared is also equal to positive 9, because a negative times negative is a positive. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with this type of equation. So when we multiply two things together to get 60, it's, well, 8 times 8 is 64, and 7 times 7 is 49. So neither of those whole numbers work, so it's going to be something between. So let's just go ahead and take the square root of both sides. So we get absolute value of x is equal to the square root of 60. And so x is equal to the positive square root of 60 or the negative square root of 60. So we could simplify this radical and break it up into factors. Let's see. 60 is the same as, well, 6 times 10, and then 6 is 2 times 3, and 10 is 2 times 5. So those are all the factors of 60. And I see that there's two 2's, so that means it's 2 squared. So I could take a 2 out, and then there would be 3 times 5 left inside. All of these are inside the square root. Just a refresher on how you simplify square roots. So if it's 2 squared, the square root of 2 squared is just 2, so it comes out of the radical. And inside the radical is 3 times 5, which is 15. So this would be the simplified version of the square root of 60. Or we also have the negative square root of 60, so it would be negative 2 square root of 15. Okay. Next. So now we have a coefficient on the x squared. Well, we would do it the same way that we always solve equations, and we want to get the x squared by itself first. So let's divide both sides by 4. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. I get x squared is equal to 3, and then I square root both sides, and I get x is equal to the square root of 3 or the negative square root of 3. And you can't simplify that radical because that's a prime number. Okay, let's just do one more. So now we have some things added to the x squared over here and multiplying the x squared. So we would solve this equation just like we would in our linear equations. So let's get the x squared by itself first. So let's add 3 to both sides. So we get 9 and 4x squared plus 0. So the 0 drops out. And then I divide both sides by 4. So I get x squared is equal to 9/4. Okay, and then I square root both sides, and I get the absolute value of x equals the square root of 9/4. So x is equal to the positive square root of 9/4, which actually I can take the square root of 9, which is 3, and I could take the square root of 4, which is 2. So it's 3/2 or negative 3/2. Okay, so those are the examples of solving for quadratic equations that only have an x squared term. And next we're going to jump over to some more types.